morning, everyone. I'm Delphine from Suncare. We would like to first thank all of you for taking time to join us today at Sengkang Community Centre, and a very warm welcome to our webinar, From Early Experience to Lifelong Resilience, Supporting Healthy Development in the Digital Age. This is a hybrid webinar, and this is currently being recorded, and the link to the recording will be shared with you after today's session. And throughout this webinar, we would like to invite you to drop your comments or questions via the QR code shown here for those in person. And for those online, please feel free to drop your questions in the Zoom Q&A section or from our Facebook Live comment section. In today's series, Navigating Parenthood, Myths versus Science, How Children Learn Best. The science behind play is co-organised by CHAL, the Centre for Holistic Initiatives for Learning and Development, a research centre under the Yong Lu Ling School of Medicine, National University of Singapore, Suncare Singapore and North East CDC, part of Families Together at North East. Today, we are very honoured to have with us our host, Mr. Bae Yam Keng, Mayor of North East District, Minister of State for Transport and Culture, Community and Youth, Advisor to Tampines GRC GROs, and Ms. Theodora Lai, Advisor to Sengkang GRC GROs. And here to dive into the topic today, we have our host. We have together with our host, Dr. Fei Yang, Senior Principal Psychologist from the Department of Child Development at KK Women's and Children's Hospital. We also have here with us Dr. Michelle Key, Principal Scientist at A-Star Institute for Human Development and Potential, and Adjunct Assistant Professor at Yong Lu Ling School of Medicine, NUS. May I now invite Mayor Bae and Ms. Theodora to say a few words to welcome our audiences.
Thank you, Delphine. Hi, morning everyone. Thanks for joining us at Sengkang CC and joining us online for those online audience. So this is the third session under our Parenthood webinar series. As Delphine said, organized by North East CDC in partnership with NUS Child and Suncare. So, you know, as a parent too, although my kids are already in the 20s, I think it's something that we can all learn from one another, including from our experts today, about how to be better parents, how to help our children as they grow. So I hope that when my kids were young, I have such webinars to learn, all right? So I hope that this will be a fruitful session for every one of us, and that we could, gain insights so that we can do better as a parent, and hope that we all have a good session later. Welcome.
Well, a very warm welcome to everyone online, as well as those here with us this morning at Sengkang CC. We're very happy to be able to host this session, this third installment here at Sengkang CC. I mean, we have over the past couple of months, and you've been actually also hosting small focus group discussions and seminars right here, focusing on parenting, parenthood, creating parenting circles as well, to be able to exchange notes, inviting Sengkang parents and further, to come together, and experts also to share how we can navigate parenthood better. This is a topic that I'm personally most interested in as well, because I have two children, right? One is turning 2 and another turning 6. And they grow up in a totally different environment from how we grew up, right? They are what they call, digital natives, right? They are right now exposed to screens. It exists, from birth, and as they go to school, learning how to navigate that, in school, at home, and also going to school, when our children come home, whether they feel happy or whether they feel sad, I think as parents, we feel the emotional roller coaster too when they come back, right? So then how do we grow and, children and manage their emotional development as they grow up and go into these environments that we may not be together with them, right? And then when they come home, then what do we say to them? These are things that I'm also very keen to learn from experts here today, and how we might, as they grow, navigate through life's ups and downs, right? And to be a more resilient kid. So I would like to thank everyone again for joining us on this conversation this morning.
Thank you, Mayor Bay and Ms. Theodora. With that, let's begin our session and hear from our hosts and speakers to deep dive on today's topic. May I have Mayor Bay to begin?
Sure. I'd like to start with resilience. It's a word that we hear, but sometimes we don't really know what exactly it is. It sounds very big word, right? Especially to a young child. All right, what is resilience? And how does it actually look like in a young person? So especially in their everyday, interactions, experiences. So maybe we can ask Faye or Michelle to enlighten us on this.
Maybe I could give a head start to what resilience is defined. So when we talk about resilience, it's really about how do we cope with things when things are unexpected or doesn't go on our way. It's really not a fixed trait. It's something that we can learn, and it's really a mix of other things as well. So it comes with optimism, it comes with regulating your emotion regulations, and it also comes with having that sense of social support to allow you to grow and develop coping strategies. For example, in kids at a young age, for example, like very young, toddler's age, when you fall and you see how they get up they self-soothe, without crying, and how they react to that could be a little sense of resilience. And probably, Faye, you can give some examples as well.
Right. So other examples include when older children, if they're trying something new and it doesn't go well, would they try again? Would they persist? Do they know how to solve the problem? Do they know how to ask for help? That's another way of being resilient.
So is resilience something like we are born with, and each of us have a different level of resilience? Is it something that we can build resilience, and how could parents help them, shape or strengthen their resilience even at a very young age?
Right. I would say, some part of that biological makeup, right? There are some children who are just naturally a bit more gung-ho, right? And they're not faced by challenges. But there are some who may be more of an anxious temperament, and they may need a little bit more help, a little bit more encouragement. But it can be shaped. It can be built, which is why we would like parents like yourself to support your child to learn from their experiences, right? And help them grow from their challenges, from learning how to solve and cope. Yeah.
I think for myself, one important note is that the parents need to show how they regulate their own emotions first. Because when the kids are younger, they actually grow up with their parents, right? So they mimic their parents. So for example, let's say you drop a bowl and the bowl cracked. Would the parents go like, oh, why you do this? Let's especially during Chinese New Year. So, sometimes it can be pantan, right? So like, this is not a auspicious sign, But then if the parents react the other way and it's like, no, it's fine. The kids are around, maybe stay back, let mommy and daddy help to clean this up first. Then you all will, slowly do it in a more regulated control. So the kids really mimic from them. So it's very important for parents to, control your own emotions first. And one example I love to give is like, when we take air flight, right, safety videos, what they go is like, okay, for the adults, put on an oxygen mask on yourself first before, and I always joke, help your favorite kid after that. But, it's like, help the kids after. I think one other important thing is that the words that we use, especially like what Dr. Faye said, there might be some kids that are very anxious. So let's say we go to the playground and, there are those ladder rung stairs. So some kids might be very timid, or they scared of going further up. So there are some words that we can use like, okay, mommy and daddy are here, let's try one step further today. And, just keep encouraging them. This routine, this consistent routine, and feel the safety net for them, I think really helps to build their resilience in the future. Yeah.
Definitely. So if you say don't be scared, the first thing they think of is, oh, I should be scared. Right? So the words that we use is definitely important. And the other thing that I think I would like to add on to that is tell your child that you believe they can do it. And show that if you are hovering behind them, waiting to catch them, you are not sending them the message that you believe that they can do it. Okay, so I encourage all of you to let them explore, let them, within reason, of course. I mean, if your child is too young for that play equipment, I don't mean, leave them to try it, but within safety, the boundaries of your watch, let them explore.
So, Dr. Fig, what you're saying is that instead of saying, don't be scared, you say, be brave. Come, let's take the next step together. Correct. I think learning these lines and being able to guide kids along is important, and being able to sort of rationalize and, take that step with them, because, sometimes we might just take a step back and somewhat, forget, right, how we do need to stand really closely with them. And now, actually, the other thing that we managed, and now coming back to the part about living in a digital world, right, and about navigating screen use. Now, yes, I think we are all familiar, right, that the required screen time for under 18 months. I think the government and also media has done a good job in actually spreading out these infographics and saying, okay, below 18 months is 0 minutes, below 2 years, I think it's 1 hour, below 7 years is 1 hour, and then 2 hours is on. And so, as parents, I think we have always, also forwarded that around, right? But then, for me, and perhaps with many parents here, my husband and I, we both work, right? And we cherish the time that we spend with our children very much. And we try to spend, the evenings and also times in the weekend to really take them on our own too, right? But then, and we do give them a variety of experiences and things at home. So like I do replenish art supplies because they enjoy, drawing and creativity, and they can spend quite a long time on it. But maybe sometimes the paper runs out, and maybe, as I need to maybe take a quick shower, and then my husband has to go and tap out food, then, I'm managing two on my own, I can't manage, then so tempting to just turn on the TV. Right, so how can we then, manage this? What are some ways to cope, sort of, and resist of giving that screen time for an extended period of time? Maybe I could ask Dr. Michelle on this.
Yeah, so maybe before we go on to the specifics on how to deal with this, right, let me give you some research background from what we have in the local studies, Gusto, for example. So what we show is that babies or toddlers less than 2 years of age with more screen time, they actually show that their brains develop faster than they should. And this is in particular in regions for visual, so seeing, and self-control, where the brains really develop too fast and too early. So we see some signs later on, for example, at age 8, these kids will have slower decision-making skills, and at age 13, the early teenage years, the kids will also have higher anxiety levels. The other thing that we see also is that for toddlers about 2 to 3 years of age who spend about 3+ hours a day on screen time, and that by age 5.5, they are more sedentary and they are less active. They engage in meaningfully less active running, playing, jumping around, which are really activities that these kids at their age should do. But so here we like to kind of emphasize that resilience is just not about emotional, but it's also about including healthy movement habits that would help to lower obesity risk in the future as well. But what I'd like to emphasize is that, this is not the end of the world. It's really how we interact with the screens. So for children whose parents read to them, who had screen time, the same, but then their parents read to them more often, they actually showed a weaker link between the screen time and brain development changes. And that the real key here is actually these back and forth interactions between the parents, the child, the quality of time that you spend with your child. And that can actually protect the brain even after screen exposure. Another study from SG Leeds also showed that children whose parents engage with them during screen time, so you can watch YouTube, you can watch Paw Patrol, you can watch Bluey's together, but you make conversations with them you see this Paw Patrol, they are helping to save this pet in distress and how they deal with it. Actually, this interaction again, for children with this kind of interaction, they actually develop stronger empathy skills and connection. So compared to just children, with the screen time alone. So I think the bottom message is really, it's not just about screen time, it's not about cutting the screens, but it's really more about connection. How you have these personal connections with your kids, quality time spending with your kids that make a difference. And this can also build the resilience in the future so that they know how to navigate little setbacks when they face these challenges around in the future.
So 2 points that I'm picking up on is that firstly, scientifically, there is a real impact into the child's sort of brain development when they are exposed to screens too much and too early. And the second thing is that when watching something, perhaps we can do it with our children together to help them unpack what they are watching, and then to also take that time to form that connection together. So perhaps now I'd like to turn the question to Dr. Fei. It really truly takes a village to raise a child, right? And around us, and I know definitely for me, right, we won't be able to manage on our own, right? We depend on a whole community of caregivers, grandparents on my side, his side, on my husband's side. We carers, right? Aunts, our siblings, and so on. How do we discuss this with them? How do we, in totality, manage the child's development together, and I guess in particular also their screen time?
Right. So that's an important thing to have conversations about, right? One of the things that you could do is highlight to the grandparents or other people well-being members who might be exposing your child to screen time by pointing out that there is a screen time guideline in Singapore, and we recommend that children are not preschool children are not given the screen time like unlimited screen time, or like they should be guided on the use, right? So on the screen you will see the resources from Be Screen Smart, right? There are lots of good tips there. Parenthood as well. Next slide will show the guidance on screen use in children, right? So our recommendation is that children younger than 18 months should not be exposed to screen. Except for situations where maybe you FaceTime or you video call somebody where there is that interaction and connection, because the phone calls will not be very long. But if you leave your TV on all the time, or you let your child watch YouTube all the time, what ends up happening that is passive watching, right? And then soon enough you'll hear your child speaking like the YouTuber, or it's just passive watching. How much they are learning from it, you don't know, right? So that's why when you watch together with your child, you could explain things, and it is also a way for you to get into their world, and you know what Paw Patrol is about, or their favorite show, whatever it may be. You have something to talk about. Now, moving back to the question of how then do you manage that screen time, put in the boundaries, right? Set the password, right? So I like to tell this story, like I see young children where parents bring their child to see me as a psychologist because they can't manage their children's tantrums. And more often than not, it is because parents stop them from using screen. Okay, it's time to go to bed, put the screen away. They throw a big tantrum, right? And these parents, they're quite cute. They come in very proudly say, my son is 3 years only, but he knows the password. He can type it in himself, And I go, okay, the passwords are there to help you set limits. Okay, don't give them the passwords, right? So these are some of the examples. There are apps that you can manage screen times, manage what your child is watching. But the best thing is to always keep an eye on what they are consuming. Yeah.
And thanks, Dr. Fay. I'm glad that some government guidelines can always be used as a good reason or good reference. All right, government say so. Please don't spend more time on this. But I think it's as to say, it's not just about the amount of time, but it's how they use the time, right? The screen and some screen content are useful, but it's just how do we use them or how we guide the children to use them. So going back to about resilience, it's about how we cope with situations, with setbacks, with challenges. I believe that besides managing screen time, there's also maybe day-to-day things, experiences, or caregiving practices that also be useful that parents can start thinking about how can we leverage on day-to-day interactions to help our children develop healthy coping skills. Would you like to share with us?
Maybe I can start, like when your child comes back and complains about his classmate and say things like, oh, my classmate bullied me. How do you respond? Do you immediately go, who is it? I'm going to talk to the parent, or I'm going to talk to the teacher. Is that how you react? Or do you ask more? Oh, what happened? Right? And help your child. Maybe you will have to evaluate as well whether it is a situation where you need to step in, or you just maybe need to give some advice for your child to, oh, that sounds like a small thing, you might want to let it go, or oh, maybe you can talk to your friend, tell your friend that you don't like that, or I often tell parents, don't every time just say, go tell the teacher, go tell the teacher. The teacher got not enough time to go and handle everybody's squabbles. It's probably more useful for you to teach your child how they can communicate better with their friends, to share their emotions and so on. Michelle, you want to?
Maybe one other example that I can think of is that nowadays parents can be very overprotective. They tend to solve all the problems for the kids. But it's good situations for the kids to have a little bit of setbacks so that they understand how to overcome that situation. So, for example, my kids, one of them has, the school is just 5 minutes away, but he may have forgotten to bring his homework, his water bottle, or those project work, right? So I'll just leave it because you have to learn the consequences, right? But when he comes home and then grandparents are around, grandparents found that out. So when I come home, then the grandparents will ask, hey, why you didn't help your son to bring a water bottle or project work to school? I'm like, he has to learn his consequences. He has to deal with it because I won't be there to solve every problem for him. So I think this is something that the parents can let go a bit. Let your children grow, because from there, then they can build their own resilience, and in the future, it's really helpful for them as well. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, this is such an important question Maya asked also about. We talk about building these foundations early. I mean, my children are young, and I think just last week or the week before at K2, they actually received some brochures from HPB about eating well, but also about how to have sufficient sleep, right? And they come in nice worksheet format, so it's interactive, and you're supposed to help your child, or even your child can fill it up, like how many hours of sleep must you have, and what are good practices to unwind. And one of them included sort of avoiding the use of screen about, I think, 1 to 2 hours before they turn in, so that they'll be able to rest their mind. So these are very, very helpful resources that the government is providing and going it through the schools. But then my question, how about the older kids, or how about, what if, I had let my older child, have bit more hours. Actually, sometimes I'm guilty of that too, but we stick mostly to the guidelines, right? But how about, what if we accidentally or had to exceed, that amount of time, or we just could not help it, and the child is holding on to it, right? How can we do more? Is it too late? Or can we actually start to do something about it now? Maybe.
For example, I think one thing that we have to lay off, and I think Dr. Fay also touched on that, is that the ground rules need to be set. So for example, if you talk specifically about screen time, right, we can perhaps set ground rules like, okay, when we are eating, When we are at the dinner table, no screen time. Or like what you have mentioned, no screen time 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. And that this must be routinely kept and not like, when the child throws the tantrums and then you just give in, okay, let you watch screen time while you eat, But this must be consistently and routinely kept in place. For older kids, like what I've said before, the older kids also look at the mother's or the parents' behavior. So I know that sometimes I can be also glued onto my screen, dealing with emails and everything. So if I do that on a dinner table, then they'll be like, Mommy was also looking what? Then I'm like, okay, then, put it aside. And I think one important thing that I've learned recently in the last 2 overseas trip we have is that my daughter, I just went last weekend overseas with my daughter to have a mother-daughter time. And before we flew, she's like, Mommy, delete your Outlook app so that I do not touch my email at all. And I'm like, okay, I don't delete my app, but I asked my husband to help me disable the notification. So it was a good, relaxing trip because, I'm not bounded thinking about work, and my time really is spent quality time with the children, with the daughter, interacting with the children. So I think that's really important, and that helps them build resilience also because for example, we got lost in the train as well. Now my dad will probably know about this if he's watching online, but she knows that, hey, Mommy, if there's a train this way, means we can take the other train the other way. So we can go back. So yeah, I think these are stuff that the kids actually learn from situations, and how we approach these situations, they actually learn from us. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to add that for the primary school going kids, there's an app called Parent Gateway that MOE also pushes out good resources. Please don't ignore them. I mean, when my kids were in primary school and secondary school, and I looked at the resources there, they are very well curated one. Some schools also organize talks for parents. I actually learned a lot about the difference in how teenagers use media and use screen. And so going to these webinars or workshops can be helpful. Have that honest conversation with your kids. And it can start off with, Mommy and Daddy just realized that we have been giving you a lot of freedom on your screen, and we have learned that it can be bad for you. Let's work together to be better with our screen time, right? And Michelle gave really good examples. It starts with us as well. So my daughter too, calls me out, Mommy, you're working again, right? So then be that good example for them.
Maybe I'd like to add on a few points for older children example, especially if they are at the adolescence age, right? They might feel that, I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to go to the counselor to ask for help. But I think this is something that we should actually open it up and let them know that it's okay to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a strength because you know that you need help. Go seek for it. And they can ask for help from Mommy and Daddy, from a close relative, from teachers, from counselors. And really just to emphasize that this seeking help, asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength as well. And maybe for older children, we also like to encourage some healthy risk-taking habits. So, for example, if your kids are very, sports active, maybe you like to try for team tryouts, let's start with school team tryouts first, or class team tryouts. For example, if your kid is good in chess, for example, but the school do not have chess CCA, but you happen to see a chess competition somewhere, maybe like to push your kid a little bit to hey, would you like to try this out, so that they get used to coming with setbacks, dealing with setbacks, and they know how to overcome it. I think that's very helpful as well.
Okay, can I just add one more about seeking help? Thanks for that prompt, right? If you have come to a state where you feel like, it's really bad, right? There's screen addiction. All communication have broken down with your teenager, your adolescent, and you need professional help. The Touch Community Services does have a cyber wellness and digital wellness service where you can support your child. And it's not about just sending your child for counseling. Go with your child as well. Show that support. Yeah.
We have covered quite a bit today, and from understanding what resilience looks like in our children, to how early experiences, screen exposures, and how our caregiving practices can shape the way our children learn to cope with challenges. But of course, parenting rarely comes with a very clear-cut answers. Every child is different. What works for me might not work for you. And with that, let us move on to our panel discussion with our hosts and speakers, where we can discuss some of the very real-life situations that parents like us face. And to kickstart the panel discussion, we have always talked about how resilience develops through your everyday experiences. But what I think is the biggest challenges we face is actually screen time. And whether is it our phones, our tablets, screens are actually a very big part of our family life. And what is very interesting is that we often talk about how screen time affects the children, but what we don't talk of is how screen time affects us as parents. Is it impacting our relationships with them? Are we giving them less attention? Are we less responsive to them? Are we acting role models to our children, which just now we also talked about? And with that, maybe we can have Miss Theodora to actually share her experience as the mother of two preschooler children, the challenges she faced.
Thank you, Delphine. And I mean, the challenges are quite real, right? I think with screens and being digital and just the nature of work and perhaps even with AI, we do rely on our phone quite significantly to do many things. And I would say it's also actually a good thing that we are also teaching, AI to our children at an early age. Just the other day, my daughter was asking me a question, and I didn't know the answer, and she said, "Just ask ChatGPT." I mean, she's 5 years old, But I'm glad she knows that, there are these apps and options and what is AI, right, to be able to get those answers. But it is a struggle to not answer a work message or a friend's message as we are unwinding in the evening, and then just, as they are playing, just sort of look away and, complete your message before turning back at them, And sometimes you feel like, hey, they are already involved on their own. Do I really need to? Can I just answer one more thing? So I think the struggle is real. And I think what Dr. Michelle mentioned also just now and Dr. Fei about two things about the consistency, right, of allowing for screen. And that's a struggle too. There are definitely days, why don't we do movie night on Friday, and then there's also the modeling of behavior. I think these are just, we may not be perfect, but we can put in that effort to do that. And I do appreciate the challenges that are around us on this note. I feel it very much myself too. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure.
So my kids are much older, but it's also about during family time, right? How do we ensure that we give ourselves the opportunities to really interact? Yeah, so I same my family during meal times, no phones. So we put them away even from the dinner table. All right, so that no chance, all right, to say alert, they have to look at it, maybe something urgent. So I think that if we place our priorities right, that to have quality time with the family, to just have a meal together. All right, I think that's important. That's our priority. So I think that's where we can set as sort of house rules, and then through daily sort of day-to-day kind of emphasis on it, practicing it, then it becomes habit. And that's where we can all develop good habits by reinforcing it, by also encouraging one another that this is how we want to lead our lives. Yeah, so of course, when they are very young, actually when kids are very young, they don't know that YouTube can search for everything in the world. That it can be on 24/7. All right, that when I was young, we watched a TV program. The cartoon is only on at 6 p.m. on Saturday only. That's it. Then you just accept it. I have to wait for Saturday. Once a week, I watch half an hour of cartoon. All right, but so kids, they're not born with this knowledge that everything is our fingertips. So we can create this world that we want our child to believe in. Okay, for a certain period of time. But really, as parents, as caregivers, it is up to us. All right, how do we develop the kind of mindset and that manage the expectations and not just yield to whatever technology, whatever devices can accord that kind of convenience and accessibility?
Well, that took me back to memory lane just now in a bit to remind that the cartoons were in fixed hours, right? But I guess things has also changed, right, around Singapore. I mean, we now have also many more options to bring our family out together. Just over, National Day, I think there was a public holiday on Monday, right? So then what do we do on a Monday? So we actually went to Gardens by the Bay. And we checked out the cloud forest, right? And then saw all the dinosaurs, the Jurassic Park and the T-Rexes. And these are things that we didn't have before. And that was really fun. And over at Mandai, which is not too far from the North East, right? We actually have, the new Explorer. A very immersive experience and digital, but, in a very educational and interactive manner, and there's also I think Curiosity Cove that opened before Explorer opened in April this year. That were for younger children. So there are plenty of options, and I would say there are also plenty of free options for walk-in, and that's none other than our playgrounds, in our heartlands that are very well maintained, and they take different shapes and forms, even with water features in different parts of Singapore. So it's just a fun idea to just bring them out, to these different parts, check out a different one each weekend, and those are activities that, as parents, if we have to watch after them, I think we will naturally put our phone away and just be involved in the morning or afternoon with them.
Yeah, I really like your example about the parks. So we have to clock in our 10K steps by HPB as well, right? So the parks, and now they are really integrated with the playgrounds in it also. So, after dinner, it's healthy for us also. Take a walk around the park, bring your kids along. They can play maybe not so soon after dinner, probably before dinner. But having that connection with them while they jump, you clock in your 10K steps, I think that's very helpful. Delphine asked about your relationship with the phone or the screen time, does it impact our relationship with the children? Well, in the research world, there is such a task where in the past, in the 1980s, we don't have screen time, right? So what we did is we asked the mom to interact with the child for 2 minutes. Then after that, we asked the mom to give a still face to the child, means just blank out face. But now we kind of changed that task to ask the mom to either do something on paper, pen and paper, or to do a screen. And what research has found that for parents who deal with the screen, right, they felt less connected with the child. The child had more emotion regulation problems, had more social emotional problems. The child do not have to regulate their own emotions. And this can be a problem for adolescents. So when they see their parents engage with their screen, the adolescents might feel that, hey, my parents do not want to communicate with me. So they feel neglected. And that is definitely not the message that we would like to bring across to the adolescents as well. And I think it's really a vicious cycle, because this not only impacts the child having these kind of behavioral problems, but the parents themselves also, like I've mentioned, they feel less connected with the child, but they also feel more stressful. So can you imagine, you have your phone there, you interacted for a bit, but then after that, you feel that urge, maybe there are more emails coming up. There's a whole notifications after that that's never ending. So what I always would love to emphasize is that, just be in the moment, spend quality time with your child. The phone, the messages, the work can wait, because, this kind of interactions with your child, it lasts, it has a very great impact on the child, and it lasts forever in their memories as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to add as well that the screen time for parents ourselves, right, what takes our attention away from the child, like what Michelle said. And the screen content these days as well have also shaped our what we pay attention to in that sense, both for the adults as well as the children, right? TikTok, for example, the shorts that just keep scrolling on your phone, it just appears, right? Oh, that looks interesting too. And then it draws us in. Similarly, the child is getting drawn in, but your child's brain is still developing. What ends up happening is that your child then ends up with very short attention span, right? They cannot pay attention to something for very long, okay? So it has real impact on the real world as well. Suddenly, shorts are interesting. My teacher is not so interesting. My classes are not so interesting. School is not so interesting. And then you have school refusal. I don't want to go to school. I feel sick, you know. So all the other issues might show up. The other thing that has an impact is that screen time takes us away from physical activity, which directly impacts on our physical health, as well as our sleep, which also impacts on our health, right? And our attention span and all that. So if you find yourself watching the latest Korean drama or whatever, you know, 3 episodes later and 2 a.m. in the morning, and oh, the child is still up because you're still up. I mean, these are some things that are real. Parents who come to see me have these difficulties at home. There are also children who wait for mommy and daddy to fall asleep, then they get up and they're using devices while you are sleeping. Or worse, you give your child the device because the child is screaming and you don't want to disturb the neighbors. So these are some of the challenges that have occurred because of screen. And the best thing is prevention. Don't end up there. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, this just reminded me as well, right? I mean, in terms of our reactions as parents, and I think as a mom or a dad, you know, I think you've got to have enough rest yourself, right? I think we don't sometimes spend enough time on ourselves, and sometimes when we are managing our kids and our work, you know, you don't have enough sleep yourself. Right, and I say this even though I also have, you know, late nights, right, 1, 2 a.m.s and things like that. Because I noticed myself as well that if I were to sleep late, you know, I tend to really have a shorter temper, or shorter or longer reaction time to when my child is speaking to me at the end of the day. Right, after coming back to work and coming. So if we do not have enough energy ourselves, and having a reserve to react, you know, to things as they come, then we might end up, giving less than desired reaction. Even as you think about it, it's not about someone else thinking that their reaction was not good, but it's just something, as maybe even mothers, we tell ourselves that we could have just said that a little bit better to our child or manage the situation a little bit better. And I think that is only possible if we also do take care of ourselves. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And I want to encourage parents, right, that we just need to be good enough parents, right? We can't be perfect parents. And there will be days where, because of that deadline, you had to stay up late, and then, you know, the next morning, maybe you shouted at your kid for being too slow or something like that. But don't beat yourself over it. Learning to say, oh, sorry, mommy had a bad night, you know, I shouldn't have shouted at you. Learning how to repair those relationships when things happen is also important, and it's also part of building resilience.
Actually, when we show our shortcomings and vulnerabilities in front of our kids, that will also encourage them to embrace their own failures. That, even daddy, mommy also didn't do this right. All right, we are also not perfect. So that they are also more forthcoming to share their disappointments, their failures with us. Otherwise, they may think that, oh, I need to be perfect in front of my parents. Because they are perfect, they are, So I think that is where, I think as a family, we must provide the kind of mutual support by showing the realities of life. and that we also go through this. So when I'm down, I hope that you can also give me some space, but I'm also here with you when you need some support.
Yeah, I think that's very important. So that validation of emotions, that, telling your kids, hey, this is how I feel at this point of time, so that the kids can actually name their feelings and they can, parents are around to validate their feelings. So these are really key little stepstones for them to build emotions. So once they name their feelings, their emotions, and we know how as a family that we can guide through it, support it, coach them through it, it really helps to build them for a longer run in the future. So like, for example, when they grow up, they can have better communications with their friends, their bosses, their partners, their colleagues, and they can build better interpersonal relationship. And this could also help them with better mental health in the future as well.
And maybe something I would like to ask. So, we always say that parents have to be role models, but what if we are tired that day? We have a very bad day at work, or we're just tired, and the children are throwing tantrum. What do we do with them? How do we deal with this?
Remember, once my youngest daughter was making a scene, crying, all this. So my wife asked her, how much time do you need? 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to cry, to wail? Okay? So let her decide how much time she needs. Okay, 5 minutes, okay, time starts now, just cry. When time's up, okay, you can stop now. So I think it shocked my daughter. I can, throw a tantrum for as long as I want. Yeah, but yeah, you agree, you set the rule. I go with your rule, and then there's a stop time. That maybe already shocked her. Okay, or maybe there's no need to cry anymore. So I don't know whether it helps. I mean, it's something we can do.
That's a very creative way of doing it. Yes. Okay, some children do need a little bit of help, especially very young children who are still trying to learn how to regulate their emotions and may not have that time concept, right? So for the younger ones, you might want to cuddle them. You might want to say, okay, I know you're upset. No, you still can't have the ice cream, but mommy is here with you, right? So it's not about giving the kid what they want to stop them from being upset. It's not even about offering them something that they want. You might actually end up accidentally reinforcing that tantrum, that your kid somehow realizes, hey, when I'm upset, then I get offered this and that and whatever it is, right? It's to be with them, and you can ask them to breathe, and you can breathe deep with them, slow and deep. Okay, let's take some breaths. Let's calm down, right? Counting might help. Thinking about their favorite things. For very young kids, you could do distraction as well. Okay. Oh, let's try and look for your favorite game, and let's try to do the game instead, right? So that's redirecting. Yeah. So those are some of the strategies that can be used.
Thank you so much to our hosts and speakers. We covered quite a lot of important points today. We started by looking at what resilience actually means and what it can look like at different stages of the childhood. We then explored our experiences, our relationships with our children, and even the way how technology can shape how they learn to cope with the challenges. And an important message that has come across is that resilience isn't about expecting our children to handle everything on their own. It is about giving them the support, the space, the opportunities to gradually learn how to cope, and knowing that they can always come back to us whenever they need help. Yeah, but as parents and caregivers, we know that putting this idea into practices isn't always very straightforward. Yeah, and with that, maybe we can move on to the Q&A segment where we can hear from our audience. So if you have any questions you have not posted, so you can actually use the QR code here to post for those that are here today with us. And for those online, you can actually use the Zoom chat or from our Facebook Live comment section. We have actually seen quite a lot of questions, so perhaps Mayor Wei can help us select our very first question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for submitting a question. So on my screen, I see the top one based on the popularity. Okay, there are 2 caregivers at home, so the question says, but one relies heavily on YouTube to manage tantrums with screen time sometimes exceeding 5 hours. Wow. So how can both caregivers, so I think in this case, different standards, different practices, so how can the two work together to reduce this reliance on screen time?
We highly recommend consistency. So if it's two caregivers, it's probably husband and wife. Please talk it out and have a consensus. Use our screen time guidelines as guidelines, right? If your child is not supposed to be using screen for that long, explain to your child as well. Put some responsibility if your child is old enough. But if your child is really young, then as parents, we need to set the rules. Sometimes parents do it because it's convenient or they don't know what else to do. Well, then think back to when you were growing up and you didn't have so much screen. What were you doing, right? What did you have to do? Get ideas from friends, get ideas from other parents. That's some of the things that we could try.
I agree that we need a very standard SOP, and consistent SOP. These are the rules and guidelines that you need to follow. And I see that the question was about managing tantrums. I think the other thing that you can do as a family is playing board games, snakes and ladders, Monopoly. These are actually good little activities that can help build resilience also, so that when a child knows, I didn't get first, or I didn't get as much money, or I need to pay out money because someone stepped on my property, that kind of thing, it actually helps to build resilience. Yeah.
Thank you for sure. Yes, board games as well, something to have at home. And I guess, since the government has put out notices and also on media on the guidelines on screen time, maybe you can print multiple copies at home and put it. Is that maybe one way? But I guess the next question would be that I see, in some of in pre-registration, I think a parent here has asked this question, which we didn't have to ask because the time that when I had my first phone was probably in university or maybe slightly earlier or maybe before JC, but now it's readily available. So the question goes, when should a child get their first phone? Because sitting around the table, my eldest also going into primary 1 next year. So those parents who are navigating this, 加油, So then thinking through that, when is there a correct time to give the child?
I think there are a lot of problems with giving your child a phone and saying it's theirs. Because the kids, they get possessive about that. It's mine, right? So then taking it back becomes difficult. So I think in terms of giving the phone, it's also, do you want to really say that this is your phone? And also, why are you giving your child the phone? For what purpose, right? For unlimited entertainment? Maybe you want to rethink. But if there are needs for communication, like managing pickups and when your child needs to go out, then set the rules for usage, right? I would say in terms of letting the child have a phone of their own where they manage the password, manage the time, is when they're responsible enough. And these days, by secondary school, there are group chats, they have to work together and all that. You also don't want to be the mother who is the last one to give them a phone and they are left out, right? So, but if you have had those conversations about the rules and how to manage and the conditions, then you could potentially, I think by secondary school, they may be able to manage. Yeah.
I totally agree. I think for myself, it would be not when you give the phone, but for what reason do you give the phone to? And I remember, my childhood, right? My parents would give me the phone just to track me in a way, just to know where I am and everything, and I have to report, okay, I'm here in school and stuff like that. But for kids now, like what Dr. Fei mentioned, in secondary schools, I think that's when the teachers don't really communicate to the parents directly. They wish to communicate to the child directly so that it builds some kind of independency as well. So the children actually have class WhatsApp group. So I think that's the good time for the kids to have the phone. But as parents, we can have set restrictions on the phone. So we can still set the time restrictions on the phone, and it can be by certain apps as well. So for example, WhatsApp. you can set a certain time. You can have school hours time where, they don't interact with the phone during school hours. You can interact with the phone after school hours or like at night. For example, I think my kids, they stop at 8. So by 8, the phone will auto-lock themselves, and at 6:30 or so, when they are going to school, then it will auto-unlock. And we also set a location so that we know that they are actually going to school. So my 2 elder kids, they walk to school or they take school bus. So we want to know whether they reach school, safely or not. So there's this kind of notifications that help us as parents as well. The apps, though, I think apps for adolescents is one thing that they would love to have. I am proud to say that my kids do not install any social media app, and this is something that as parents we can restrict that as well. And for myself, it's really because I don't think they are emotionally ready to deal with the social media world, especially of what they see, how they deal with it. But I did tell them that when they are ready, then they can show me from their day-to-day life, they can do this, then maybe I could let go a little on these social media restrictions as well.
I have a question here which actually highlights the realities we have in today's world, where it's not just your own personal device, but also there are screens everywhere, including when you're traveling overseas on the flight. All right, everyone has your own entertainment screen, right? Yeah. So how do we control that? Because everyone is turning on, watching the favorite movies or whatever cartoons that kids may like. How do we manage that they don't just glue onto the screen in front of them throughout the whole flight time?
So if you already have a relationship with your child and you're able to set some limits, then your child is more likely to listen to you if you say, don't do that. But the other thing that I would tell parents is sometimes if it's not day to day, right? I mean, you don't fly every day. Sometimes you just got to pick your battles.
Thanks for giving that permission.
I'll tell your child when he asks for your iPad, say, sorry, next time on the plane, then you can watch.
Oh, with a young child and a toddler, your bag is already so full to bring you on board. But I guess the question, the next question that I see here is also actually the question on gaming. I think in our time, right, we had to go back to the computer and game, but now, on a mobile phone, it's just so easy. And I do, speaking around with, parents in Sengkang, I do hear this issue about, children being addicted to gaming, perhaps not at a young age, but slightly older. So how do we deal with that? Yeah.
I think one thing is we have to understand why they are so into a certain game, for example. Is it because they can interact with their friends on that game? Is it allowing them to gain some kind of mastery? I asked my kid this morning, one of the questions that they may ask is like, how do I help kids with who have gaming addictions or, too into gaming? And he said that, well, it's really for entertainment purposes. So like I said, as parents, we can restrict their time. Maybe they really need this as a relief of stress, for example. But there should still be boundaries drawn. For example, if we are seeing that the kid is too withdrawn, they don't want to interact with their parents, with the friends, with the siblings, I think that's a sign that we should ask for help and probably seek a Dr. Faye's for consult, in this case. And it's a red flag in that case,
Dr. Faye.
I see some questions about good cop, bad cop. So sometimes, like between husband and wife, we say, hey, actually, we can, take different sort of ways of managing. So, daddy can be the good guy, mommy can be the fierce one, the tiger mom, the disciplinary in the home. Is that a good strategy?
Actually, the research shows that it's better if both parents are consistent. Okay, in our experience, yes, it somehow seemed to work in some families, but this good cop, bad cop thing, I think kind of evolved over time back in the days where father works, but mom's at home all the time, right? And when mom comes, you wait until your daddy comes home, and dad can afford to be the bad guy in that sense. But I think in the current times where both parents are out working and both parents are at home, maybe one has longer hours or not. It's much better if both of you have a good relationship with the kid, right? So imagine if you end up being the bad cop all the time and your kid hates you and tells you he hates you. That's not a very good feeling, correct? So it's better if both can agree on the same rules, implement the same rules, address it yourself, right? Not say wait for the other party to come back. That would be what I would suggest.
It actually is very true because my husband, he tells me I don't want to be the bad cop. I want to be the good cop because the number of hours they have with the children is already very limited. If within that 2-3 hours after coming back, dinner time, and they are the bad cop, the relationship will be bad. Yeah, so I think it's good, to have both consistent and both are good cops and both practice the same thing, same way, so that it's consistent throughout. Yeah, but I have one question over here where they mentioned, because now is a WA period and we have older kid, younger kid. What if, we need to tutor the older kid who is having exams and the younger kid is throwing a tantrum or asking for attention? What do we do in cases like this?
Well, there's only one of you. But I think as parents, we try not to just put all our attention on just one kid and not the other, not all the time. If there is a tantrum, you got to deal with it. But if you feel that the kid is throwing a tantrum just to get your attention, and you might not want to reinforce that. You might want to say, hey, figure out what the tantrum is about lah. You may think that it's because they're jealous and wanting your attention, but it could be something else, you see. So when the child is having a tantrum, calm them down, talk to them, what is it, and then teach them what to do next time. Okay, next time when your toy is broken and you don't know how to fix it, come and ask mommy, right? Sometimes the tantrum is more because of something else, yeah.
Well, I ask the same question in a different way. Let's say kids of different ages having, let's say, exam time and or no exam. The screen time regulations, do we need to be fair? Because Koko has exam, therefore cannot have screen time or limited screen time. But Mei can have more. Is that right? Also, is that something we can manage, that kind of differences among siblings?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think if the younger one is really affecting the attention of the older one because it's playing in the same room and that kind of thing, and it creates that tension, now I would suggest, maybe the younger one should be doing something else, right? But if it shouldn't be because Koko is playing, I must. It's a bit like, Koko has a phone, so I must have a phone also. But you gotta explain to your child, well, Koko has a phone because he's older, he's more responsible. When you are his age, you'll be able to play, or explain to the Koko, well, you're having exams, maybe it doesn't have exams. So that's why you have to use your time wisely to study during this period lah. So these conversations help them understand the rationale, and it will allow them to have better problem-solving skills in future.
So I guess I see also one more question here, several questions on Pigeonhole, but I'll just pick this one. So the question goes, what parenting habits unintentionally reduce resilience? And I think as we also it's the weekend and move forward to spend time with our family. Could you share maybe 1, 2, or 3 practical tips that we could bring home with us and just to look out for to not unintentionally reduce resilience?
I think, like what I've mentioned before, being overprotective of your kid, trying to solve all the problems for your kids, I think that unintentionally reduce resilience. I know it's out of, your good heart. You want to help your kid, maybe move things along a little bit faster. But the kids need to learn how to solve these kind of problems as well. For example, if they are too bored, they want screen time, but hey, your desk is a little bit messy. Maybe you can help to clean up. It's probably prepping a meal time. You want to help mommy chop some carrots, for example, strip some carrots off. And then these are good, healthy habits. So I think Dr. Fay also mentioned asking your kids to do chores. So I train my sons to be prepared for NS, so they help to wash the toilets also. So I think that's a good, healthy habits. And really, I do not expect them to be really clean, but just help out with the household chores at home. Yeah.
Yeah, the exposure is certainly important, and that gives you an idea of what else they could be doing, as opposed to just spending all the time on screen. So the other thing that I want to emphasize, which we already mentioned, is about that connection, right? Having that connection with your children. Now, you don't have to be like 100% connected all the time. I mean, your kid needs to learn how to deal with boredom, how to find their own things to do, make their own friends, and so on, right? One of the things that I have observed, actually, you just go around, kids are, what's affecting that connection, right? One of the things that's affecting connection is the overuse of strollers. Some kids are in strollers, even when they're preschoolers, they know how to walk already, but they are in the stroller, looking at the tablet, and the parents are pushing them, right? So what happens is that they're receiving content in the tablet instead of observing the world around them. They're not connecting with you. So when you are pushing the stroller, they're not like standing beside you. You're not teaching them that when you're out in crowded places, you need to stay with mommy, not run off and become lost. But if you're not giving them those opportunities to experience life, because your outing somewhere is them sitting in a stroller looking at a tablet while you window shop. I mean, not all parents do that, I know, but there are some who are doing that. So I'd like to highlight that. Have those connections with your kid. Talk about what you are seeing, what they are seeing, observe what's going on around. And maybe you want to talk about, I wonder what's happening with that person over there, what do you think? That helps them hypothesize, think about what could be, right? And that is also part of facilitating problem-solving skills.
Thank you so much to our hosts and speakers. We have quite a bit of rich and meaningful conversations today. And I think it's a good moment for us to maybe pause and reflect what we have covered. So before we wrap up, I would like to invite our hosts to actually share with us what are the closing remarks that we have for today. What's the learning experience that we have?
Sort of coming to the close of today's webinar, I just very much like to reflect. I mean, I've learned a lot from this conversation from Dr. Michelle and Dr. Fay and Maya, and also from the questions that has been raised. I think these are very real questions that I also ask myself, and I take time to also try to find out. And I think going back to what you said, my two takeaways are probably what you also mentioned earlier, and that is the idea of consistency. I think just now you mentioned that your husband doesn't want to be the bad cop. I feel that too. I also don't want to be the bad cop, even though you see your child doing something wrong, So I think being fair, right, and parents having an understanding of where the boundaries are with our children. Occasional treats are fine. Dr. Fay said it. I think that is helpful to just build that relationship and connection with our children. And then also modeling behavior. I'm guilty of it, definitely, right? Looking through things in the weekends, and whether is it for work and other things. So one of the things that we try to do here in Sengkang CC is also to have many events locally. Locally for you to bring your children and for it to be very accessible. And today's session, I know for those of you online can't see, but we do have little ones, in our auditorium here today, and also slightly older ones, I think in primary school and secondary school. So we really welcome that environment, and we are also trying to be conscious about building those environments 3 years ago, when here at the CC, we also put in a 24/7 open nursing pod, so that parents that are also nursing and having to bring along a young child can access these facilities any time of the day without it being locked up, and it auto sanitizers and so on, right? So these are the little things that we are doing locally, which we hope will encourage all of us to be able to have a variety of experiences in the community with our loved ones.
Well, first of all, thank you for spending time with us, whether online or in person here. I hope our sharing, especially the experts' advice, has been useful. I would like to echo what Theodora said about really, I have observed in the live audience, young kids, toddlers here, and they have the patience to stay about an hour with us without any devices or screens, really. All right, and parents, you don't need any lesson anymore. I think you are already graduated at the experts and we can learn from you. But really, I think it's not about getting it perfect. All right? Being parents, parenting is a journey of learning as well. And we will make mistakes. All right? So while we have access to the webinars, to materials online, to sessions like these, it's also about discovering our own style, about how our children are, because every child's temperament, personality is different. There's no one-size-fits-all way of doing things. All right, so I like to say that it's a community. All right, that we're also trying to build within the North East District, where we can learn from one another, find company, find comfort and support within the community. And do look out for future sessions like these. Let us know what topics you'd like us to cover so that we can know what experts we can invite to share. And more importantly is to have that openness to listen and to apply some of things that we think can work in our family, with our children. And then we can all become better parents because we also make mistakes along the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our host, Mayor Bayam King, Ms. Theodora Lai, and our speakers, Dr. Michelle and Dr. Faye, for sharing your knowledge, experiences, and insights with us today. And of course, thank you for all of you who joined us and took the time to participate and be part of today's conversation. We hope you'll leave with something today, something useful to take away, whether is it giving your child a little more space to try, being more present with your everyday moments, or simply just reminding yourself that you don't have to be the perfect parent to help your child build resilience. And before we leave, please take a few minutes to fill up the feedback form to help us improve on our future sessions. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Have a good weekend ahead.
I grew up in a slow